for August 17th. The order, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Dominic, Johnson, Jackson,
Present.
Lynn, Bowman,
Present.
Hawthorne,
Present.
Gage Watts, Middleton,
Present.
Atkins, Chavez,
Here, sir.
Smith, Johnson.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
All right, if you would, please stand. We have several different religious faiths here in the audience today that I've been told, and we want to recognize everybody. So first what we can do is, if we could have a moment of silence, and then after the moment of silence, if Reverend Dr. Aaron Jackson, Pastor Henson, and our rabbi would come up and all lead us in prayer. So if you would, please observe a moment of silence. All right, Rabbi, you want to come?
God, whom we,
It's on.
okay.
Trust me, it's on. You don't have to move.
Just stand by, there's a
It's
line
on.
that's there.
There's an X there, and just stand on that X and project. And project.
There you go.
Okay. Good chanted, then for sure you'll all hear. God, whom we call by many names, we ask for your guidance as these community leaders deliberate on matters of importance to our community. May your guidance help this group, aided by those of us who have come to speak, to make decisions which will benefit all of the people who live here. Amen.
Amen. Reverend Henson.
Let us continue in that prayer. God, we give you thanks for this opportunity that we have to meet together here today and participate in our government. We thank you for Caddo Parish. We thank you for our commissioners. We ask your blessing upon this meeting. Amen.
Amen. Soon to be president of the convention, Dr. Jackson.
Shall we continue? God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us this far along the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in your path, we pray. Bless our feet, God, straight from the places where we met thee. Bless our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. We thank you now for this participative form of democracy. We pray now for each of these elected servants that you might guide them and give them the wisdom necessary to make the decisions that will be down to the benefit of the citizens of Caddo Parish and that will bring you glory. We ask all of these blessings in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I have a pledge of allegiance. Let's present the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any agenda additions?
I have none, sir.
No agenda additions. All right. Citizens' comments. Citizens who wish to address the commission on any issue other than zoning, please fill out a comment card located in the chamber foyer and return to the president or the clerk of the commission. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes. Okay. Can you hear me? All right. Citizens who wish to address the commissions on matters relative to public hearings, those are items that are listed on the agenda, will be limited to a cumulative of 15 minutes each, for or against an issue. Those who wish to speak or make presentations are asked to select their speakers and address the points they wish to be considered with this limitation in mind, and that is only for public hearing. That's correct. That is only for public hearings. But right now we are in citizens' comments, for which everyone gets 3 minutes. 3 minutes, and I'll call them in the order that I have received them. Reverend Dr. John Henson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm John Henson, pastor of Church for the Highlands. It's usually mine going off. I'm glad it's not. I come before you today representing the 25 member institutions of Northern and Central Louisiana Interfaith and the over 250 institutions of our statewide network, which is Together Louisiana. We stand before you at an historic time in our state. For the first time in 81 years, local taxing bodies will have the capacity to help shape how applications for tax exemptions under the state's industrial tax exemption program, how they will be spent. Governor Edwards' executive order of last year requires local governments to submit its review of exemptions in their parishes to the Board of Commerce and Industry before they consider these applications. So today, you will vote on a process to help make those decisions. The governor's executive order calls for your deliberation to consider the creation of jobs as central as you look toward approval of an ITEP application. It also takes a step toward prohibiting the most egregious abuse of this program, which is the allowance of tax exemptions for routine maintenance and equipment replacement rather than for the creation of new industries and new manufacturing jobs. In Caddo Parish, 89% of the ITEP exemptions, totaling $3,947,454 last year, were lost in revenue and have gone toward routine maintenance and equipment replacement and have resulted in a net loss of jobs. While the executive order says that exemptions of this nature are no longer allowed, you will soon have before you requests for exemptions that are again asking for public subsidy for routine capital expenditures. To address these attempts to get around the intent of the executive order, we ask you to pass the following amendment that will include these four provisions. Number one, the creation and maintenance of a minimum of 5 permanent direct jobs for up to 5 years. Number two, an automatic clawback provision to allow the parish to recoup lost taxes if jobs are not created. Number three, a minimum amount of subsidy per job. And number four, applicants fill out the ITEP approval form ensuring that exemptions are for job creation and not for routine maintenance and equipment replacement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Pastor Clayton Moore, and as Pastor Moore comes up, I want to recognize several. We have a lot of clergy here today, so thank you for coming down, taking your time out, and thank all citizens for coming out. But we are we're always grateful when we have our clergy come down. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
Clayton Moore. I pastor St. Rest Baptist Church in the Allendale community here in Shreveport. My colleague, Reverend Henson, has put forth for you a proposal that will help ensure that the process you adopt today will in fact bring new jobs to the parish and will invest in our people and the process of the progress of Caddo Parish. As you consider the process of approving the ITEP, I want to put before you a new vision for economic development. Historically, our only approach to economic development has been subsidizing companies through programs like the Industrial Tax Exemption Program. It is our assertions that tax exemptions and tax credits alone does not adequately economic develop a strategy rather for economic development. A robust economic development effort should invest in human capital through investments in such things as public education, workforce development that trains residents of Caddo Parish for high-skilled, wage-living jobs. A robust economic development strategy invests in infrastructure such as streets, roads, ports, and communication systems that makes for commerce possible. A sound economic development strategy invests in public safety that attracts companies to low-crime communities. If we continue business as usual by continuing to only invest in subsidizing companies for routine maintenance and equipment replacement, we will not build a Caddo Parish that is vibrant and well as we all desire. You have before you today an opportunity of historic proportions. I ask you to invest in a physically responsible vision for economic development that invests in new companies creating new jobs. Invest in new jobs by existing companies to expand their employment. The proposal that sets before you today will give us a way of recouping funds that have been lost over time. If we are to invest in our community, we will have to recoup that loss. Possibly, we will not be faced with a millage that will not pass again. If we legitimately want to create new jobs, it will be necessary for us to invest in our community for the greater work of our parish. Thank you for your consideration for the proposal.
Thank you, Pastor Moore. Cantor Neal, and I can't pronounce that last name, so I apologize. Swartz.
I'm Cantor Neil Schwartz, the spiritual leader of Congregation Agudath Achim. As we've heard, ITEP was created, I happen to know, in 1936 to encourage manufacturers to relocate here or to expand, but with the provision of creating new permanent jobs, not just what we've been hearing about, maintenance jobs and such like that are temporary. Companies are not paying taxes, and that's legitimate if they were to create new jobs, but we have evidence that that is not happening. We are not being told the truth all the time, and this lack of funds because of ITEP, the way it currently exists, is causing extra strain on social services, which affect all of us, particularly the Sheriff's Department. So we are asking that you all support our friendly amendment to the version of ITEP deliberations that you have before you, and you've heard some of the details of that already, but its purpose is to put teeth into something that should be wonderful for us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Maxine Davis. And Bobby Edwards can come up and start coming up after her. Bobby Edwards.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Maxine Davis, a member of Stonewall Baptist Church in Bossier City and a resident of Shreveport. The United Way Alice report documents the number of households that make above the federal poverty guidelines, but not enough to afford the basics. Project X, Another Chance to Succeed, targets those households, upgrading workers' skills and putting them into living wage jobs with a career path and benefits. Some of those dollars recouped from ITEP could help fund Project X and other programs that invest in our families. I ask you to vote for our amendment today. Show we are not doing business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Edwards. Bobby Edwards. I have Robert Payne after that.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Bobby Edwards. I'm ex-United States Air Force and retired engineer on the Space Shuttle and Advanced Cruise Missile Program. I'm also a member of Morning Star Baptist Church with my pastor, Pastor Jackson. Okay, I'm a manager at Popeye's chain of food. We have to start the basics with being on time, showing our young folks how to work, etc. We think investing in a skilled workforce is economically sound as well. Many times companies import workers to fill good paying jobs while families are stuck in dead-end work. We ask that you vote for our friendly amendment and show our families that they are as important part of creating a vibrant economic sound community. Also, investing in our future is not an act, it is our duty that we invest. And we thank you, and may God bless you and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Reverend Robert Payne.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon.
I am Reverend Robert Payne. I'm the pastor of St. Mary AME Church in the Stoner Hill area of Shreveport. I just stand to essentially amen those that have come before me to remind you that while no one here is against ITEP, we just want to make sure for the proper application of the rules as has been set. As Reverend Henson stated, 89% of those ITEP exemptions that have been given for routine maintenance. And this is not the way that the governor has stated the program should go. And we are hoping that you will accept that friendly amendment to put some teeth into ITEP so that we can recoup some of the funds that are badly needed in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Martinez.
Thank you so much. It's great to see such civic engagement from our community today. I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm Scott Martinez. I'm president of the North Louisiana Economic Partnership. I concur with my friends at Interfaith and Together Louisiana on many of the things they've brought forward. Some of these things have actually been remedied with the new rules that were published in June, especially with the maintenance facilities. And I'll read that specifically from the new rules. In regards to maintenance, maintenance capital, environmentally required capital upgrades and replacement parts, except those required in the rehabilitation or restoration of an establishment to conserve as nearly and as long of the original condition, will not qualify. So some of the concerns that are being brought forth today have been actually addressed already in rules that have been developed and are being implemented. Secondly, I agree with Governor Edwards philosophically with the changes in the ITEP. And I've communicated that on several occasions. I think local governments, whether it's a commission, a police jury, a municipality, a school board, or a sheriff, should have input when it relates to their local revenue, because y'all are the ones that have to serve this community. I agree with accountability and clawbacks. We have several members from Interfaith today, and I believe they should be companies should be contractually obligated to perform. You know, in God we trust, and others we audit. And I think we should certainly carry that forward. There are lots of changes that I think were very positive in that executive order. What I don't want to see is Louisiana and Caddo Parish in particular to become uncompetitive by rules that we develop. Just because we do it here in a vacuum in Caddo Parish doesn't mean other states or other parishes or other counties in the country will do that. So in conclusion, I want accountability, I want local input, and many of the things they brought forward today I agree with. Some of the information that I see in this handout I don't necessarily align with. Elio Motors has never received an exemption. They were granted one, but no value came online, so that money never happened or was exempted. Libby Glass, Commissioner Jackson and I had the privilege to work with that company probably 3 years ago to retain almost 500 jobs here. So you have to look at the job increases, and I think that's an important metric, but also look at job retention. Had we not acted back in 3 years ago, then Libby Glass was in real jeopardy of not doing any additional investment here. So don't look at things singularly. I think it's a good opportunity to have good policy. Some of the policies we're bringing forward with our organization is a cost-benefit analysis for all projects to look at the public cost of a company when they come into a community. We do a 3-year audit financial statement analysis to make sure the companies are viable before we even take it to anybody asking for any exemption. And that, I think this is a great opportunity to look at how things have been done the past 80 years and make some good policy changes. Many of the things I agree with my friends at Interfaith and Together Louisiana, but wholesale, I think we need to be careful that we don't paint ourselves in a corner to where we are non-competitive. Thank y'all for having me here today, and thank the members of Interfaith and Together Louisiana for coming out and being active in their community. I think that's an important testament to the quality of people we have here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Barron Jackson.
Theron Jackson, Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church, 6001 Foxbrook Circle, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71129. I wanted to just say to you that the best laid plans of economic development come unraveled by an unstable local community. that in fact every incentive that industrial tax exemption program is one of the incentives that we have, one of the arrows in our quiver, if you will, for economic development. Some 23 years ago, I entered the economic development at the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, and it's interesting that one of the things that we, I think gentleman who just came before me spoke of it, that there's one thing to recruit new businesses, is another thing to grow, retain, and make healthy those businesses that already exist. And so I want us to be sure that we understand that when we start talking about the number of jobs, it becomes real simple. Somebody has got to stand before the community and talk to them about, over the last 20 years, if you're talking about over $500 million in exemptions and a net job loss of 4,000 jobs. Some people may feel good about that. As a citizen who's not as smart as any of the folks who are elected, I'm sure, but that just sends some kind of stripe up and down my spine to say that how do we justify, and I'm not talking about the state, because if we talk about the state of Louisiana, we got to talk about billions of dollars. I'm just talking about our parish at $686 billion, some would say $540 billion, others would say, depending on the period of time you are measuring, that we are giving in incentives. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't know anybody who's anti-economic development. You talk about being competitive. The question becomes, I've heard in my life, over the last couple of decades, let me say, that we're competing with Bossier City. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not competing with Bossier City. If we are, we have a very minute perspective of ourselves. We're competing in a global economy where we've got to worry about not what's across the river, but what's across the ocean. And at the end of the day, we need to be sure that our city remains competitive, and that, in fact, what we do is not give away the entire city in the name of growing the city. That we've got to have smart growth. It's got to be balanced. It's got to be balanced and juxtaposed to what is best for us. It's hard to say that we give away $300 million. The school system has lost $300 million in exemptions, and I would suggest to you we still have failing schools. We still have a failing school district from time to time. We see it. It becomes more and more evident, and ladies and gentlemen, the best laid plans of economic development come unraveled by a poor education system. I talked to Mr. Ted Cox on the way in here today. It just so happened we bumped into each other. He says, we're going to run out of money. We don't have money. We're going to have 17-year-olds next year. It's going to be a new problem at the door. And folks start thinking about, well, before we start adding taxes on to us, those of us who are citizens who already pay taxes, what about some of the money that we're giving away? We dig a hole, and then we turn around and ask citizens to fill a hole that we dig because of economic development, the guise of economic development, when there are net zero new jobs. And I just think that we have to put in provisions, and that's why I certainly ask that you would consider this, because if we don't put in provisions that says to our community, when we talk to whatever the company may be, we told them that this for us is about jobs.
Second.
No, I don't need them. I didn't need it. I just want to say that when we talk to the citizens in this city, and we have to be responsible to say to them, when we decide to exempt somebody, and when we decide to agree to affirm exempting somebody, that we did it because we can talk about the number of jobs created. And nobody will be upset with a single commissioner when you can talk about the number of jobs that we create. But when people have to stomach $500 million given away and 4,000 jobs lost, that's tough. So my prayer is that you would at least consider what we say and do that we can stand behind, so that the average citizen understands that when we do something like an exemption, there's also a result that is positive for our parish. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a card from Shreveport Green, but I'm going to hold y'all because you're under visitation. So we're going to take that card out and bring you up under visitation. There won't be a 3-minute limit. So we're going to scratch that card from public comments. Kenneth J. Krepp. Go Cubs.
Kenneth Krepp, 157 Archer, 71105. I'm here to talk about the courthouse fence. On balance, it seems to be something we should consider. I want it to be attractive, built as inexpensively but practically as possible. I don't know that it'll actually provide the level of security some of the proponents say, like Sheriff Prater, with all due respect to the DDA Executive Director Liz Swain and others. It could be very attractive and provide security. Security is one of those things that strikes me as odd. The gentlemen out front check us when we come in, but probably by now they're gone. So if somebody walks in now with a gun, or he or she is not checked, I don't get that. It's done for a while. Or Tuesday a week ago, if you wanted to go, as John Settle and I and a couple others, to the City Council Audit Finance Subcommittee meeting, you could, and you weren't checked. Then you could come from there straight into council at 3 and not be checked. So security is important. But as a citizen, I often get confused because right now as we speak, school zones at A.C. Steer Elementary are 35 miles an hour and at Captain Shreve High are 25. So I scratched my head and I said, I thought the little ones needed more protection than the high school kids, but it's 10 miles an hour greater at elementary. So that's on security. And I found this penny this morning right on my driveway, and it's the 2017 penny I found since I was 7. I started picking them up, and it's 2017, so I'm quite confident one of my neighbors saw my Facebook post and planted it by my newspaper, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. My last minute and a half is briefly a brief history lesson on secession from the Union. My gosh, how I wish Thomas Jefferson's bill in 1784, failing by one vote in the Continental Congress, would have prohibited the expansion of slavery in the territories forever. One vote. Our subcommittee on the monument, one vote, 5-4. The draft renewal, right before World War II, passed the House by one vote. One vote is important, and secession is something acknowledged by all the scholars as a legal right. The states voluntarily acceded 9 of 13 to form the Union. Lincoln in 1847 on the floor of the House defended every state's right to secession, and repeatedly through the 50s, many famous people from John Marshall to John Adams to Benjamin Franklin to John Quincy Adams said the state has a right to secede. There was no objection in 1863 to secession when West Virginia's 28 counties seceded from Virginia. That type of secession was okay with Abe. Apparently, secession was only not okay when it was for the Confederacy. Y'all have a tough decision. My hope is that y'all form either a subcommittee and let the people of the parish vote on the monument in a parish-wide referendum at some point. I think we would be wise to consider that. And thank you for your time. And it's 121 days without a cigarette from my wife.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Said Johnson. Said Johnson. I have a card from a Said Johnson. All right, we're moving on. Is this John D. Long? John Long? And it's kind of, I apologize. Okay.
Thank you. John D. Long, 318 West 70th Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. I just want to say, I hope that in the future, should we have such issues come before our community, such as the issue of the monument and other such issues, that perhaps you will consider a dialogue session rather than individual sets of monologues. This whole situation, as far as trying to do communications between the city, the council, the parish commission, the people, it seems to me that we've had people get up and make monologues as to their particular feelings, their particular issues, their particular positions. And facts seem to be, let us say, a willing suspension of the truth. Should these issues come up in the front, I hope, rather than monologues, that we could put together some kind of forum that would have dialogue. I've had several people that have come to my business that said, I saw you on TV and I thought to myself, oh, God, no. Well, sometimes I was taken out of context, but sometimes I was in context. So I thank certain degrees of the media, and I do not thank certain degrees of the media. But overall, I think certain people in the commission have acted honorably, others less so, which I shall not specify nor try to degrade in any way. But should future issues come up, I would ask that our citizenry have more of a concern of dialogue, not intersecting monologues. Let us try to put our city together. Let us try healing. Let us consider things such as the crime in our city, the need for full employment, the need for the betterment of all our citizens. Folks, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll give consideration to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Brenda O'Brock. Folks, you do not have to grab the mic. Just speak.
I'm a little shorter. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Is this
ma'am.
working? All right. I want to talk about healing today. And I want to talk about civility and reciprocation. I had a friend whose grandfather fueled World War II. He was very wealthy. He lived here. If I said his name, you would remember him by the monuments he left behind, the buildings that are on campuses. And you know what? I was always taking her to lunch and paying for it. And my grandfather's wealth was stolen from him, but I thought, what is this thing? I love this girl. She was so much fun. She was my best friend. But I was always taking her to lunch. She was the poorest little rich girl I'd ever seen. I said that to say reciprocation. It would have been nice for her to treat me for lunch as much as I had treated her. You people need to reciprocate. When I call you, and especially if you are my commissioner, it would be nice for you to reciprocate. The other thing I'd like to bring up about healing is civility. To have civility, you have to recognize other differences, and you have to respect them. You, our elected officials, have a responsibility, and civility starts with you. I have heard plenty of people talk about the Confederate monument issue, saying, I just wish we had civility in our town. Well, you know what? Do any of you remember Deonza Duran? And she would sing on the radio, we're gonna be the best buddies this world has ever seen. We're gonna be loyal to each other, and we're gonna share everything. I'm not a good singer. My husband's the musician in the family. But think about that. If you run off with my toys, you're not gonna be my best buddy. This is what we're doing with the Confederate Monument, and I appreciate you letting me come and talk to you about this today, because I may not be here on the day that you vote on that, and I know we had a little waffle going on here, but you people need to get down civility and reciprocation.
Okay. Casey McDaniel.
My name is Cassie McDaniel, and I live in Keithville. I have brought to you today a petition requesting the removal of the Confederate monument from the courthouse grounds. There are over 1,000 signatures of Caddo residents on this document, but over 9,000 people have signed. That means that over 8,000 people who are connected to people in this parish care about what happens here. And before you disregard them, I was at the advisory board meetings where people that stated they were not parish residents were still allowed to speak in favor of keeping the monument where it was. Ken Calhoun and his Louisiana Patriot militia had a known agitator from New Orleans, Conjaksha Kumar Kata, who was active in fomenting violence in New Orleans, come and speak at his rally last month. Mr. Kata was on his Facebook page this past weekend talking about his participation in the riots in Charlottesville and about what rallies he was going to be attending next. A friend of mine talked to Ken at that rally where he spoke, and he informed her that he had a black SUV parked down the street with off-duty law enforcement from other parishes that were in tactical gear with weapons, watching in case there was trouble. I have not seen these people holding rallies at Oakland Cemetery or Stoner Hill Cemetery, both of which have Confederate sections, nor at the Battle of Mansfield site. No, they are at the monument because of where it is, the courthouse, because having it there gives them borrowed legitimacy and power. If a group of black men in tactical gear and weapons, waving a black nationalist flag, with a carload more down the street, were to parade up and down in front of the courthouse, how long do you think it would be before the police were called? This is not going away. This commission has the power to stop these men and others like them by moving that monument to a better place. Because having it at the courthouse makes them feel entitled. And men like Caddo will feel it right and necessary to come here to defend their rights. It would be Colfax in reverse. My son from California called to check on me after he heard I was at the prayer vigil for Charlottesville because he was concerned for my safety. How long before someone is injured or killed? If you think removing the monument is a heavy expense, how much more would a lawsuit against the parish cost us? The eyes of Louisiana in this country are on us. We cannot shuffle this off and think that it doesn't apply to anybody outside this parish. We are being looked at. And if there is any white person in this room who thinks that the monument belongs in front of the courthouse, a place that should represent all citizens, and yet can disavow and distance themselves from the actions of white nationalists and protesters and Nazis that rioted in Charlottesville this weekend, and think that it does not reflect poorly on them, that is the essence of white privilege. Thank you.
Mr. R.J. Johnson.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Hopefully this will be one of the last times that I have to come to you and talk about the monument issue as the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Just to give you a final update on what we have done, the Citizens Advisory Committee did meet on August the 10th, and we proposed a resolution. The original resolution called for the removal of the monument. As you are aware, that resolution failed on a 4-5 vote. There was an alternative resolution that came up calling for the creation of a monument to the Reconstruction, as well as the civil rights movement of equal size and grandeur. That motion passed on a 5-3 vote. It was a difference in vote because I chose not to vote on that item as the chair. We delivered today the written report as well as the records from the committee to the Long Range Planning Committee and Chairman Chavez. So we have officially completed the work that you asked us to do under Resolution 72 of 2016. So that has been submitted. I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to look into this. I want to thank Chairman Chavez for his support, as well as the clerk's office, Todd and Michelle, for their support, and the parish attorney for their support during this process. It has not been an enviable task at all. It has been extremely difficult, and I appreciate being given the opportunity to lead that, and I appreciate the committee members for giving me an opportunity to lead as chairman. And finally, I want to thank the committee. They have gone through a lot, both sides of the issue, multiple sides of the issue. They have gone through a lot, and we've endured a lot through this process. So I want to thank them for all of their hard work. So that concludes my remarks as the chairman of the committee. I do want to say something on a more personal note. It has been interesting to hear some of the comments, particularly those that have just been made today about starting a dialogue. The importance of the issue that we had is that we're hopeful that we will start a dialogue. But the people who have come up to you asking that a dialogue be started are not the people that have called for a dialogue to be started. They could have made that call a long time ago. The committee members, including myself, have been disrespected by members of the public, particularly when you're called you people, you're pointed at, you're told you're a liar, you're told that the information that you're talking about is not important, being told to get over the issue of slavery, being told various things that had nothing to do with what we were talking about, were some of the things that we had to deal with. And it's quite interesting to me to see some people come up and make comments asking for different things to take place, but never once did they come up and ask for those things to be done on the level that you gave us the right to do. What I want to encourage you as a commission is that we can't be Charlottesville. Caddo Parish cannot be Charlottesville. What happened in Charlottesville cannot happen in Caddo Parish. This past weekend, just after leaving our committee meeting on Thursday, I traveled to the Young Democrats of America National Convention. And I had the ability to present a resolution in regards to Charlottesville on the floor of the National Convention. That resolution passed unanimously. Because what we must realize as a people, regardless of how we feel about that monument, whether it should be there or not, and my personal thought is it should not be there. It needs to be moved. But at the end of the day, we are a community that must come together. We can't give lip service and not do the actions that we're asking each other to do and forgive and have an open heart and an open mind. When you ask people to have... Appreciate it. When you ask people to have a dialogue, you just have to have just as much of an open heart as anybody. But you can't have an open heart when you're pointing fingers, when you're placing blame, when you're trying to force people to forget what happened to them and their ancestors. It is not fair. And at the end of the day, if we're going to come together as a community, we do have to have a dialogue with an open heart. We do have to understand where each other is coming from. And I don't envy you at all with the decision you have to make, but the decision you make has to be for the betterment of Caddo Parish and the future of this parish. If we're going to be progressive, if we're going to bring in more businesses, if we're going to increase economic development, it has to be, the decision you make has to be for the benefit of the parish. This is not 1906, and we can't keep operating like that. We can't keep operating on the mindset of what happened yesterday is erasing history. It's not erasing history. It is simply saying that history belongs in a museum. That's what a museum is for, right? So at the end of the day, my hope is that when you finally make this decision, that this decision will not be based on emotion, but it will be based off of the real things that are needed in this parish to move this parish to the next level. So that's my hope. Thank you for the opportunity to serve, and good luck to you on the final decision.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know that we just got the recommendation from the advisory committee, but there are still some questions that we might need to ask them before we disband that committee. Okay. Some particular questions that we might need to ask before they get disbanded.
Okay. So
We'll invite them to the next long range and discuss it then.
yeah, they received the report today. So this one came in a little late, and then we'll get the person who we had to skip over on the at the end. So Donnie Farr, am I pronouncing that right? Farr.
Good evening, Councilman,
Go ahead.
Commission,
Yes.
employees. Will that satisfy you? I just want to address every one of you. I have never spoken to this group before. I've been active in the politics. I've been active in my community ever since I've lived here, and that's been a while. I just want to remind each of you that you are elected employees of the people. You are on our payroll. You don't work for George Soros. You don't work for your buddies. You don't work for the employers, these companies that come in and soak this city with $1 million or $3 million or whatever it is at a time. You don't work for them. You work for us, the taxpayer. And I know you don't like to hear it, but when you ask us to elect you to a job, we expect you to do what we say, not what your buddies want. Because we pay your salary, and if you don't like your salary, you shouldn't ask us to elect you and hire you when you were out politicking to get our vote. This monument does not belong to you. It does not belong to me. It belongs to someone else. And you do not have the authority to move this monument. I don't care how many signatures is on a piece of paper. It's not yours to move. You've been told this before, and I'm reminding you, leave it alone.
Next, we move to visitors. Shreveport Green, Miss Donna Curtis, Executive Director of Shreveport Green.
All right, Ms. Curtin. Shreveport Green. Oh, God. All right.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Emily Harmeyer. I'm here representing Shreveport Green today as the Shreveport Program Director. Shreveport is an AmeriCorps program. We're proud to have served this community, this parish, for 22 years now. We've just completed our 22nd program year. This year, we graduated 15 young adults from our AmeriCorps program this year. Over the course of this year, these 15 young adults contributed a collective total of 7,000 hours of service to this community, and we're very proud of that. When we began in 1994, we started working on litter abatement, park beautification, planting trees. Since then, we have expanded our mission to include addressing food desert neighborhoods. For those who may not know, a food desert neighborhood is a neighborhood that is largely low income and where there is not a grocery store with fresh produce anywhere in the neighborhood. And so most of y'all probably have food deserts in the districts that you represent. There are 19 in the city of Shreveport alone and 22 in the parish of Caddo. So that is a large part of what we are working towards accomplishing is helping to solve those issues. And so I'd like to thank you for having us here today and thank you for your continued support of our organization. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Lauren Jones, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our program.
Hi, I'm the garden manager, and I'm in charge of teaching the Shreveport members how to grow produce. And I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what we've done and our accomplishments throughout the year. So this year, each member planted, maintained, and harvested their own garden bed. And the goal behind that is after they graduate from the program, they may be able to go into their neighborhoods and grow their own produce or maybe even manage one of their community gardens. Also, over the course of the year, these members have helped grow 1,379 pounds of produce that have been marketed directly to those food desert neighborhoods. And 671.25 pounds was harvested in the summer alone. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And I'm going to turn it over to Shima. She's one of our members.
Hello, everyone. As LJ said, we have our own garden, and the produce that we use, that we grow in that garden, we do in our mobile markets, and that's when we go out to those food deserts and sell that produce to, low-income families and stuff like that for very discounted prices. And that means a lot to me because as someone who grew up in a food desert and as someone who recognizes the many faces that come to our markets, it just brings my heart joy to know that they're having access to healthier foods and that they're on, a further path of a healthy future. And now I'm going to turn it over to my fellow member, James.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is James Bond, and before anyone asks, yes, I do have a license to kill.
007.
What's your name?
James Bond.
James Bond.
So
But
this past...
you had an interesting, when substitute teachers came, you were pretty interesting when they called a roll.
Now then, this past summer, Shreveport Green has done some things that the only adjective I can find to describe it is amazing. In addition to growing produce and taking it to food deserts for the mobile market, we also go into these areas, these food deserts, and we try to teach children about education, and we also have a summer program where we take them from the areas that they're living in, and we take them to a parish park, in this instance Walter B. Jacob, and we teach them about nature. We have a summer camp essentially teaching them how to get more involved with nature and more involved with basically, the earth, so to speak. That's why we call it Earth Camp. Now then, over this past summer, we've taught over 300 children at the Earth Camp, and in our lessons, we've taught over 350 children about nutrition, about health, about how their body needs to grow, all while maintaining these parish parks while working with the parish services. Now, I live on West 70th, which is a food desert. I've lived there my entire life. I'm within walking distance of 2 of the facilities where we taught the children on how to eat and how to have a nutritious breakfast. And I have no illusions about the area that I live in. It is one of the highest in crime, it is one of the highest in poverty and obesity, and it is one of the lowest in education. And what Shreveport Green does whenever we go to these camps and whenever we go to these facilities is we do more than just teach these children about how to eat right. We provide an environment of security. We provide an environment of community. And we're able to do this because of your continued support and your continued help. So in this instance, I would like to thank you for helping us do good. And I mean that sincerely. Thank you, because this is my community that I work in. This is my community that I live in and that is being directly affected by this. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I've got one more thing to say, specifically Henri Wesley. We want to thank him particularly. Here is he. Henri, thank you so much for helping us get out to Parish and for all of the funding and support that you have given Shreveport Green throughout the years.
Well, thank y'all. We have a couple of people on the board for comments. So I might wanna sit still. I'll just say this group that's here, Lady Carlson is walking out the door, but they are pretty adamant about addressing food deserts, and they've worked with the state on getting the healthy food finance initiative, and Commissioner Cawthorn authored that resolution that we would support it. So hopefully y'all can get some synergy going here and start working together toward addressing those food deserts. Commissioner Linda Johnson, for something? Okay. I see Commissioner Bowe.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to, first of all, tell you all you did a remarkable job, and Shreveport Green, as always, AmeriCorps and Shreveport, you all helped make this place what we talk about becoming better, actually a better place. I believe in eliminating food deserts and educating on eliminating and learning about growing food and naturally, and I think the more and more we become in that area, we can also become more progressive, and it grows a sense of unity as well amongst us. And so I just commend you all, I thank you all, and I just implore that we keep it up, and maybe we can continue and join in with you all. And thank you, Henri Wesley, as well, for everything you do. Thank you.
I did.
Yes, sir.
Vice President Thomas.
First of all, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for being late, and I look over here. And if y'all need a spokesperson, I love that bow tie that he's going to Shreveport Green,
yeah, represented today.
We're sitting here looking at all the things that y'all done in helping out our parks. The 300 members, the children, 350 children y'all helped for Earth Camp, the continued support of our parks. You know, I think we have, Andre, what do we have, 15 parks in the district, or the parish, and it's hard to maintain those parks, and I know that the park and recreation system thanks y'all so much, but y'all do a good job, and y'all thanking us, but we'd like to thank y'all for all your help and support of our parks. Thank
you.
Well, thank y'all for Shreveport. Emily, you've done a great job, as you always do. And Donna Curtis, you're sitting down back there. Donna Curtis,
yes, Ms.
front
Curtis.
center, please, ma'am.
Tabitha.
Our executive director, and I say ours because I was involved with Shreveport Green for over 25 years as a board member and past president. She's done a great job, but she just, every year somebody new comes through, and we've had people go through Shreveport that's become military folks, and really proud when that happens too. But you always do a great job, even if you're out here cutting grass around the courthouse or whatever you might be doing. I know there's many things that y'all are out there doing, but y'all do a great job. We're proud for you and look forward to you coming back here and telling us about your career, what you've chosen to do as you get older in your life. And thank you again. Thank you, Donna.
Can't hear you, Commissioner.
Do we have high school
Lex can hear
seniors,
you.
high school seniors, juniors, college?
Mostly college.
Mostly college, okay. All right.
Doesn't it start at 16?
17.
17.
Okay. Well, appreciate everything you're doing, and you know you got a good program going and a good direction when the director can sit down and let the young legs do their work, and that's what this is about, is giving our young legs that fresh energy to get out here and make an impact in our community. So We look forward to continuing working with you, so thank you so much.
Mr. President, if I may.
Go ahead.
Ms. Curtis, when is the application? Is it about time to start recruiting new folks?
Right now.
Emily?
Right
Emily?
now, August 31st is our due date for our application.
Okay, so if you know one in your community who needs this type, this is really a good thing to do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, and feel free to stay throughout the meeting.
Thank you.
All right.
Or you can leave.
Well, I like people to get know our process and see how we do. All right. We don't have Tim Hardy here, correct?
No, I move that we have Tim Hardy as a visitor in our first meeting in September.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Atkins, that we postpone this to our next meeting. All right, next.
We have no special resolutions to adopt regular session minutes from August 3rd.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lynn, second by Commissioner Cawthorn. Please vote to adopt regular session minutes. Clay, am I projecting back there? That passes 12-0.
Adopt special session
Move to
minutes for
approve.
August 14th.
Moved by Commissioner Matthew Lynn, second by Commissioner Middleton. Please vote to adopt the special session minutes for proper staff. That passes 12-0. Next.
We have no public hearings, we have no ordinances for final passage, no zoning ordinances. Now we can move to zoning ordinances by introduction by title. SP 10317 appeal case, site plan appeal regarding SP 10317, appellant Mr. Kenneth Johnson. Next we move to ordinances for introduction by title. Ordinance number 5713 of 2017, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator or designee to sell the parish Caddo Parish's tax interest in certain surplus adjudicated properties. Ordinance number 5714, to close and abandon a certain road dedication located in Section 3, Township 18 North, Range 15 West, in the parish of Caddo. Next, we need to ratify the minutes of August 14th.
Moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts, second by Commissioner Cawthorn. Please vote on ratification of work session minutes. That passes 12-0.
Next, we move to resolutions. Resolution number 63 of 2017, authorizing request of special exemptions to requirements LSA RS 18-532 that no precinct shall contain less than 300 registered active voters within boundaries.
Moved by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, second by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Please vote on the precinct merger. Precinct exemptions, I'm sorry.
Right.
That passes 12-0. Next.
Resolution number 64, approving the holding of an election in the Caddo Parish Sewage District
Move
number
to
2.
adopt.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, second by Commissioner Dominic. Please vote. That passes 12-0.
We have no old business. We move to new business. Approval of ITEP flow chart and resolution template.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Atkins, second by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson. Do you want to speak on your motion to approve?
First of all, thanks to the Together Louisiana people for their interest in this important initiative. You all have been involved with this from the beginning. Ms. Carlson and I have been speaking about this for over a year. I know you all were involved in the process to move this through the governor's office, and we're behind much of the governor's executive order. So I applaud your involvement in the process. I believe that the process, as it's laid out now, currently addresses the issues that you all have raised this afternoon. The process, the flowchart process that we currently have laid out, and the resolution process that we have developed all make specific reference to and require attention to the new number of new direct jobs, the size of payroll, the term of the exemption contract, and the percentage of exemption from parish ad valorem taxes, and most importantly, the loss of exemption for non-compliance. So again, we're addressing the number of jobs, the payroll, the terms of the exemption, and the loss of exemption for noncompliance. These, in my mind, have been you all's primary issues. The current process has been worked up through the parish administration. It's been vetted with the other parish, the parish government bodies. The Louisiana Economic Development Commission is on board with the process, and I believe the Commerce and Industry Board has reviewed the process. So there's been a lot of effort that's gone into developing a process that's workable, that includes the same issues that you all have expressed your concern about today. So moving forward, things are going to be different than they were in the past. But I appeal to my fellow commissioners to not oversubscribe, not subscribe too much detail to this process beyond what's already laid out in the existing flow chart and an illustrative example of a resolution. I'm concerned that if we start adding too many details, that we're going to box in our economic development professionals and prevent them from doing the job that they need to do to negotiate each individual agreement to fit best for that individual company or entity. So I ask my fellow commissioners to approve the current flow chart that's been vetted by our staff, that's been vetted by Louisiana Economic Development, and that's been vetted by the Board of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Linda Johnson had the second.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
What's the name of the committee that you sit on that you was appointed by the governor?
It's the State Industry and Commerce Board.
And what's y'all's senior mission to do?
To make sure that we don't approve any ITEP applications that does not create jobs, permanent jobs.
Okay. How many people from North Louisiana is on that same committee?
Two.
Two people?
Monroe, Louisiana, and myself.
Okay, and how many people sit on that committee?
24 members.
So out of 24 people, there's only 2 from North Louisiana, and you're one of the 2.
Yes, sir.
The template that we have in front of us, is that something that you helped develop?
Yes, sir.
So basically, based upon the information from the governor, from his executive order, you kind of step and put that together as well?
Yes, sir. Everything is embodied in what you see before you.
Okay. I think that, based upon what Governor John Bell Edwards has put in his executive order, we just need a chance as the local governing body to be able to make this decision ourselves instead of what it has been in the past is with the state. And if this doesn't work, we can always come back and modify it. So I think for right now, this is what we should follow, is the flow chart that we have in front of us. Dr. Wilson, does any of the other parishes have a template as this, or do they have any process developed already?
I met with Bossier Parish about a month ago to explain that they were looking for a process, and I think they will probably mirror ours.
Okay, so basically, North Louisiana will probably follow the lead of Caddo Parish.
Yes, sir.
And with you being on the committee and help putting this together, I think that we're showing leadership in this particular role, and I think that by adding restrictions to this, will harm Caddo Parish instead of helping. The main thing is we create new direct jobs. We do have some small manufacturing entities in Caddo Parish, and with one of the amendments is to make sure that they create at least 5 new jobs. I think that will put a burden on some of them, because if they only have 30 employees and you talk about you at least have to have 5, then that will put a burden on them to not even qualify for this in the first place. One piece that I did see on the amendment is the clawback provision, which is already deal with the loss of exemption. So I think each one of these cases that we get, applications, if it gets past the committee, that we should look at them on a case-by-case basis and develop some type of formula, not something that's prescriptive to say at least this or that, but some type of formula that would allow us to make the best decision for Caddo Parish and to make sure that we're representing the people, not only that we serve, but the state as well. Thank you.
All right. Number 2. Commissioner Gage Watkins.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I would like to make a substitute motion. If I can get a second, I'll explain to the ITIP.
I'll give you the second, but I'd like to hear the motion first.
Thank you. You have before you the approval process that has just been passed out to you with the included amendments. No tax exemption pursuant to Article 7, Section 21F of the Constitution of Louisiana shall receive a resolution of support from the Caddo Commission unless the project meets a minimum threshold for net new job creation. Projects eligible for support from the Caddo Commission shall result in the creation of at least 5 net new direct full-time jobs, which must be created within 2 years and sustained for a minimum of 10 years from the time the exemption is approved. Provide for an amount of foregone and ad valorem tax revenue from all parish taxing bodies over the maximum 2 terms of the industrial tax exemption totaling less than $100,000 per net new job created. Include a contractual clawback provision under which the exemption shall be revoked and ad valorem taxes shall be owed retroactively to the degree that contractually obligated net new job creation falls short of the job creation projects contained in the ITIP application. This clawback provision shall be enforceable at the end of each term of the exemption. For example, after 5 years for the first term and 3 years for the second term. Applicants fill out the ITIP approval form ensuring that exemptions are for job creation and not for routine maintenance and equipment replacement. For any industrial tax exemption application not meeting the job creation threshold established in this resolution, the Caddo Commission shall submit a resolution as part of Exhibit B of the ITIP application process, indicating that the approved percentage of exemption from parish ad valorem taxes shall be 0%.
Second.
So that's motion by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts, second by Commissioner Matthew Lynn. Commissioner Gage Watts, do you want to speak on the motion?
Yes, I believe that as I am for creating new jobs, and I think that every one of us up here is for that in job creation. I believe that this is an opportunity that we have before us today to make an 81-year decision, and I think that we should take the time and to use this opportunity to process it and vet it correctly. We have heard from the public today and respect and receiving that they have put their input in saying that, would you please take this opportunity to take your time and make sure that we hold these larger corporations accountable for not just creating jobs, but for retaining them. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Matthew Lynn, second.
I'm in support of this, especially the clawback aspect of it. In 2014, 2015, I rallied with some of the previous commissioners to get a company here that promised hundreds of jobs, to which we gave them great credit, and to which they have produced, I want to say, 3 or 18 jobs. I've asked administration and legal with the parish on how is this active, and then we get this money back, and I've yet to receive any follow through on it. And so I believe that we have to legislate these types of actions, and I recognize and compliment Interfaith and Together Louisiana for tightening these up. If at some point we realize that they are too tight, then we can adjust them. With that, I don't know if I heard it, but I would like to add a friendly amendment to this, that if we come across something that does need to supersede any of this, that a 2/3 vote would be able to do so. Will you accept that?
Accept that.
He can't do that. Point of order, he can't do that. He's already spoken. He can't make a motion.
Okay. Well, then I'll let somebody else.
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Correction accepted. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Atkins.
Again, I have to point out that the issues that have been raised in this alternative motion are addressed in the existing format that's being proposed by the by the administrative body that was retained here in the parish to work through these issues in conjunction with the Board of Commerce and Industry, in conjunction with Louisiana Economic Development, and with conjunction with our other fellow taxing bodies here in the parish. Remember, the document as is originally proposed discusses the need to lay out the exact number of new jobs, exact payroll, terms of the exemption contract, and to the clawback issue, the loss of exemption for noncompliance. This issue is already addressed. Please do not complicate this issue with these last-minute insertion of additional exemptions that are going to further restrict the economic development professionals when they're trying to recruit existing or new businesses and trying to convince existing businesses to stay in Louisiana, and particularly in Caddo Parish. Remember that there are multiple competitive issues at play here, and it's very hard to, on the front end, prescribe a solution. The negotiators need to have some flexibility to work out a solution that works both for the parish and for the potential employer. And Louisiana Economic Development has, you all have seen it on the Economic Development Committee, they have a program that calculates out the internal rate of return for the parish based on various ad valorem tax rates and other incentives to ensure that we will get a return on our investment. We're not looking to give money away. As I told Lady Carlson from day one, as a business person, I'm looking at an internal rate of return on the parish's dollar, on the taxpayer's dollar. But I don't think that the best way to get the best economic return on the taxpayer's dollar is to over-prescribe on the front end what an agreement should look like. We've got to allow some flexibility to negotiate, and I strongly encourage the commissioners to stick with the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chavez.
Thanks, President. Point of clarification, can I add their friendly amendment and then speak? Yeah? Okay. Then
There's
I'll
no such thing as friend, but make.
Okay, well, I'll add the amendment to add the 2/3 vote on the case-by-case basis to approve certain situations, if you'll accept that. Okay.
So that's motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Chavez to add the 2/3 provision, second by Commissioner Gage Watts to.
Yes.
And then I would like to speak, Dr. Wilson, have you gone over this process with Scott Martinez or with our NLEP staff to ask their guidance on if John Bell Edwards' executive order is sufficient, or that if this would negatively affect Caddo Parish in the runnings for business opportunities amongst the other parishes?
I'll try to answer that question for you, Commissioner Chavez. I have not spoken with Scott regarding the flow chart process that we developed. We talked earlier today, and I will forward him that for his review. But Scott has been briefing, I think week before last, the ITAP's changes that the executive order addressed. And our process is in line with the executive order and the revised state statute that governs the stopping. So we have alignment with that. So I hope that answers your question. You know, we're not doing anything different than what state statute requires us to do by law.
So as I understand it, right now we are congruent as far
Yes,
as
sir, we are.
competitiveness with the other parishes.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel if we add additional stipulations that we will be less competitive?
I think you ought not box yourself in a corner. Each deal need to be considered on its individual merit and go from there. Because if you start prescribing, like Commissioner Atkins said, you will be less competitive. And I think Scott would agree with that.
Scott, you agree with that as well?
I will agree with that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I think many of the
Well,
things.
hold on.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Chair, I give it back to you, President.
All right. Commissioner, there's no disrespect to anybody, but we got it, especially for the minutes.
I'm up?
Yeah.
Tell me what the motions are. I'm a little confused because I'm sitting there looking at the agenda, and the motion is approval of ITEP flow chart and resolution, and then the second thing is a proposed amendment to Caddo Parish ITEP approval process. What's the difference between the approval process and the flow chart?
I believe, if I'm If I understand correctly, that's the same.
Okay. And then the third amendment, quote, friendly amendment, was that.
2/3 provision, that it can be waived on
Okay.
these.
I just, Scott, come on up, buddy. I'll let you talk. Can you briefly
Yeah,
tell us
that'd be great.
what you're the economic person here. Can you tell us what you were?
First of all, Caddo Parish needs to be in alignment with the rest of the state as far as being competitive. There are some things that are very valid that Interfaith brought forward in regards to the way the ITEP was done prior to the executive order that was done last year by Governor Edwards. I'm in complete agreement that there needs to be local input in regard to local tax revenue. Philosophically, I think Louisiana over the past 80 years has been an outlier in that. There are several things in regards to the ITEP where Louisiana has been an outlier on. For instance, most states don't allow you, except under very special circumstances, to exempt any school taxes. Texas, for instance, is typically $100 million of valuation before you can even discuss school taxes. So there are things in place with this change, I think, that addresses a lot of the concerns that happened historically under the ITEP program. If you look at the rules, the new rules that were sent out in June, most of the things in regards to maintenance and some of those things were already addressed in those new rules that had not prior been addressed. And that was problematic in regards to maintenance and some of those things. I agree with any public incentive that's done that involves tax dollars or public dollars. There needs to be a contractual arrangement with clawbacks. And I like clawbacks that are based on the percentage of noncompliance. So, but if you have Caddo Parish being an outlier in the way that it applies the ITEL program, then it becomes less competitive with other parishes, perhaps in the state, that is not as restrictive. That's, again, those are my thoughts.
I agree with, back to Commissioner Atkins' original motion. This has been vetted on, I guess, at least 2 occasions with the Economic Development Committee. That's what they're supposed to be doing. We're listening to our administrator and trying not to get this thing too complicated, but the basic idea about this is Economic Development came up with a recommendation. It is in conformity with the executive order. Dr. Wilson is saying we do not need to box ourselves in a corner. We need to, we're getting thrown a lot of these amendments at the last second. I think we need to just vote on and go with Commissioner Atkins, the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee, and move this thing forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm next. I was gonna make another motion, but I don't think you can amend an amendment to an amendment. I have concerns with the amendments being lumped into one. Some of the amendments I do agree with, but there is one in here about the $100,000 per net new job. I think the danger of doing that is folks watch our meetings. Folks, economic development is very competitive, and folks are looking at what we do, and so when we put something out there that's that restrictive and prescriptive, you run the risk of somebody coming back and outdoing you and outpacing you. I'm not saying we don't need. I don't mind doing the 5 net new jobs. I'm glad you put net new jobs there. I don't mind the clawbacks. I can live with the clawbacks. But I do have concerns about that $100,000 per net new job created, because that
too much, yeah.
Somebody can really come in and undermine what you're trying to do, because it's competitive out there, and Dallas, Irvin, those areas are becoming powerhouses. Little Rock is starting to look at what we're doing. Monroe, Washita Parish, and so these are folks outside of not necessarily Bossier, Natchitoches, or DeSoto. These are folks outside. They look at, and the economic development process is it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And if we're not careful, especially with this second provision here, so I would have asked that we would have taken these amendments up one by one as opposed to lumping them all into one. So I just want to caution us on that, and that's my spill on that, and we'll see how this here goes. Commissioner Linda Johnson.
Thank you. Again, I say that we should, this is our first time doing this. So let's take the template that has been developed and go with that. If you look at note number 2, it basically says everything that's in here, but not as prescriptive. Now, the cooperative endeavor agreement that will be developed on the backside of this, it could have some of the same details that we need to have, but don't make us the parish that has the most restrictions out of the 64, and then now we have a hard time getting new businesses to come in. And the small warehouse businesses that can just pack up and move to another warehouse building to do the same thing somewhere else will leave because they can't get the exemption because they don't meet the 5 full-time jobs being created, and they won't meet the second bullet dealing with the $100,000 requirement. So I just think we need to have some wiggle room to use our intelligence to try to see how we can make this work for us in Caddo Parish.
All right. Attorney Frazier.
Commissioners, I just wanted to remind you too, when you're deciding what to consider in passing your resolution, remember that if the commission does not pass a resolution, you're still bound by whatever resolution the other entities agree on. You're bound to the average percentage of whatever those other entities agree on if you don't pass a resolution. And so there's not going to be a way to not participate in something as long as the other entities can agree on something.
Attorney Frazier, while you're on the board, the executive order, that when a new governor comes in, they can choose not to renew that order, correct?
I'm gonna let Dr.
Yes, sir.
Wilson's dying to answer that.
Yes, sir. The executive orders triggered the change in the state statute, which was adopted in the last legislative session. So we have new laws now, whether you have executive order or not. You have the new revised statute that governs this program.
So you're saying the executive order is now a state statute?
Yes, sir. They changed the laws. You had to go back.
Can we research that statute? Because I wasn't aware that the executive.
I have a copy of it here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What's the RS code on it?
Pardon me?
What's the RS code on it? Revised statute. Because I've always been under the impression that it's just an executive order.
Executive order did trigger the change in the statute.
What's the statute? Okay. And I was just asking for my clarification. I still don't see the statute on here. But that doesn't have any bearing on what we're doing here. I just wanted to put that out for clarification. I think we do need to try to figure out is this just an executive order or is this just a statute? Because executive orders do not change state statutes without legislative action. So if we could find out what the RS code is, so we could kind of read. I'd like to read up on it on my own. So if you could get us that, I'd appreciate it. I believe I would have to get Commissioner Middleton for the first time on this substitute motion. So Commissioner Middleton.
Call for the question.
Second. Well, that stops me from talking.
Well, you don't have Commissioner Bowman there, so we'll get Commissioner Bowman, then we'll call for the question. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask, I do see that the proposed resolution does capture some things, in here, but I just had the question of which one of these amendments will make us being Caddo less competitive. I heard that was said, and I also wanted to know, or which one of these amendments will make Caddo be put into a box.
Second.
If someone can, yes.
If you're asking to the chair, I think the Second Amendment is really the most strenuous, that really shows our hand. It's kind of like playing poker. You don't want anybody to know what you got in your hand, and so I think that is really. I personally believe if it was me, I believe that the clawback provisions probably can go in on the back end. I guess you can live with that because that's just good policy. That should happen at some point. So I can live with that because it should happen at some point. But to go in doing it, I probably would, if I was the emperor or ruler or the president or whatever, I probably wouldn't have it on the front end.
You are.
I wouldn't have it on the front end. I would more than likely have it on the back end. But I can live with it here. But number two just seems very, very prescriptive. So that's just my take on the thing. Commissioner, I know you got to call for a question, but everybody gets at least one time.
Well,
So,
if you're not gonna let me call for the question, then.
well, you can't call for a question on the first time around, so you get one time. Everybody gets at least one time.
Everybody gets an opportunity to talk.
Everybody gets one time. Go ahead.
Okay, as we look at this before us, what I like to see, what becomes a win-win for all parties involved, all parties concerned. I am not opposed to eliminating the Second Amendment that Commissioner Jackson and I agreed upon. I definitely would like to see the crawlback provision stay in. So with everything we got on the board right now, do we need to, does Commissioner Gage Watts has to consider moving her motion off of the floor and we start over, or?
Yeah, she would have to withdraw her motion and then take them one by one or without them. So she'd have to make a new motion.
I'll withdraw
Okay.
with those amendments.
Okay. And so are you making a new motion?
With the new
We still
motion.
got the last motion.
It's out. It's still, Chavez had the last one out.
Okay.
So this is to withdraw with the intent of reading them one by one?
No.
No,
with the-
just taking number two off.
Taking number two.
Okay.
Yes.
I accept that.
Okay. So now we're back to the original motion. Is there, now you're on the board.
Now, you're right.
Wait, a point of clarification.
I'm sorry.
Don't we still have a motion to add the 2/3 provision? Are we taking
He's
that
taking
out?
that off.
Okay, we're taking that out.
He withdrew that.
All right.
So he withdrew that. So, but I still have a call for the question.
Second.
Huh? So, I think I need to vote on call for the question first.
Yes.
So, let's vote on call for the question. I would urge us to vote no so we can get this right.
Right.
Because he did make the motion.
I know, but at the same time, they withdraw the motion.
So you call for the question on that motion. I got you. There's no question. So there's no there's no
Well, that
motion
was
to
a
call
call
for.
a question on all issues concerning this. So
I know, but
No,
we
it was called for-
already made some
right.
adjustments.
Do what now?
We already made adjustments
Yeah.
from the call of the question.
Right, so I got it. So he made for a call for a question on the substitute motion.
I
The
thought it was a call
substitute-
for a question on everything.
No, he's calling for the question.
It's on everything.
Answer.
Okay.
Commissioner, would you make a
So
call for a question?
let's solve this. Let's vote on call for the question. If you feel we need to discuss some
Calling the
more.
question to do what, Mr. Middleton? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
If they withdrew it, then,
I've got a motion on the table.
right.
Right, okay, so that's what you're voting on. If the others withdrew, then that's the only thing we're voting
That's
on
what I'm
is the
saying.
original.
That's what I'm just saying, so just
Okay.
vote no for call for the question.
But what?
He just withdrew his call.
Okay, so that's what.
Okay, he withdrew.
So now we're back to the original motion.
And then you did.
Okay, you get back on the board and then.
But I have Lewis Johnson in
I
queue.
was already in the queue.
You want to
Yeah.
spoke?
Yes,
Okay.
point of clarity.
Go ahead.
We both had the same
So
question.
we are now faced with voting for the approval of the flow chart as is.
Correct. As is. That's what's on the floor now.
Understand, to be followed by the amendment of support.
Not yet.
Not yet. I haven't made the motion.
Not yet,
That's been withdrawn.
the new motion hasn't been made yet.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Gagewalt.
Thank you, sir. With all of that has been said, I put the same substitute motion back on the floor to include, to approve by individual cases with a 2/3 vote, and also to exclude the 100,000 per net job created. Okay?
Okay. And I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
All right. That's been moved by Commissioner Stormy Gagewalt. Yes. And second by Commissioner Lynn Cogburn.
Yes.
Okay. I see. Do you want to speak on your motion?
Yes.
Take another-
I just want to address the fact that, Scott, of course, you know, that I adore you and your opinion on everything with economic development in the parish. But I do not believe that we're boxing ourselves into a corner with this. This is more or less to put teeth in what we already have. So this is a process that I believe that we could vet in a way that will be something for people not to stomach, that was said earlier. $500 million in job loss and 4,000 jobs lost as well. So I'm asking for your support of this amendment with those inclusions and exclusions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Linden.
I'd like to make a motion that we look at each one of these bullets, we vote on each one of them separately as an amendment to her motion. Can I get a second?
Is that what we're
I
doing?
thought that's what she said
That's
already.
what I thought she said.
No. He's saying take them one by one.
I thought she said that. I'm fine with that.
So you second?
No.
All right, so that dies for
Dies for
myself.
my second.
That
All right,
dies
so
for
now
myself.
I'm gonna talk. Since that motion didn't pass. Basically, when we look at these numbers, we didn't do this. This was done by the state. So we need to give our own self a chance to see what our report card would look like. And the only way you're gonna do that is to follow the template that we have in front of us. When you put this in front of us as restrictions, then guess what happens? You put Caddo limited as opposed to the other 64 parishes. If they don't follow suit with the same changes that we make, we become more restrictive. So if it's a new company, why would you come here if you got more restrictions? If it's an existing company, then like I said, if it's a warehouse type manufacturer, pack up and leave, go somewhere where you can have less restrictions. So I would ask that we don't box ourselves in to do something like that, and we follow this for at least a year. Give ourselves a report card, see how we do.
You're with John's correct?
I'm with John on this. I mean, give ourselves an opportunity to do this. We have one or two out of 24 people. One of them is our administrator that's on the committee that has been working with the governor from day one on this particular deal. And we're not even using his expertise. I mean, that'd be a slap in the face, really. This man has been there from day one, been appointed by the governor to do this, and we're here debating this about making these changes, and he's the expert here. Now, if he wasn't on the committee, I would say that, we can do all this different stuff. But he's on the committee. He knows exactly what's going on throughout the state. He knows what the other 23 are doing on the committee as well. We're the only parish up in North Louisiana that even have a process developed right now. So we're leading the pack. Now, other parishes might say, well, no, that's too restrictive for us. We don't want to do that. Now that put us handicapped. So don't handicap us. Let us do this. Let us see what we come up with in a year's time. And if it's bad, we make adjustments. And if it's good, we keep it the way it is. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Atkins.
I believe in everything that Commissioner Johnson just said. And how often do you see LBJ and I lining up on one?
I was thinking the same thing.
This strong.
I was thinking the same
So
thing.
it's got to be right this time. If we're both lining up on it. Let's trust the professionals and experts that have worked through this process. This is serious business we're talking about here. We don't want to be jockeying around here at the last minute, putting issues in that'll complicate the situation and restrict people who are considering investing in our state. So please, let's not monkey around with this. We've had professionals that have been looking at it for months. Let's please go with the original motion. Thank you.
All right, Vice President Dominic.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was making sure LB and John were on the same side there. But yeah, we need to go with the professionals. I agree. I mean, this thing has been vetted long enough. If we were going to talk about these amendments, I mean, this is not like one amendment. I mean, it's pretty detailed. This should have been brought up to us Monday. So I think we need to go with the original motion that is on the floor that was recommended by the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez.
Call for the question.
Second.
All right, so everybody has had a chance to speak on each. The question has been called for, moved by Commissioner Chavez, second by Commissioner Gates Watts. Please vote on calling for the question. All right. 9, that passes. Question has been called 9-3. 3. Please vote on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment, right? Substitute motion, I'm sorry, we're voting on the substitute motion
Yeah,
by
it's on the
Commissioner Gage
substitute.
Watts.
This is Stormy's.
Substitute.
Okay, well, substitute motion and John's motion will come next, correct? Yes.
That's correct.
All right, this is a substitute motion. Please vote.
Mr. Chavez? That fails.
That fails 6-6. All right, please vote on the amendment. Please vote on the original motion. The original motion. Please vote on the original motion. That's
John's
nothing added. That passes 9-3.
Thank you.
All right.
Next we move to communication committee reports.
All right. That was about 30 minutes long. Go ahead. Oh, nothing from.
Mr. Jackson, just want to remind you all, tomorrow morning, NLTAL meeting in here at 9 o'clock.
Okay. NLTAL.
What are they gonna say?
Talking about I-49.
No, I know, but what's the decision?
I don't know yet. So I'll get
Trying to box me.
All right.
Sorry. Thank you.
Next. Oh yeah, is this everybody from the last one? I believe?
No, I'm up there.
Okay, I just cleared it out, so if you want communicating.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought it was the last one. Commissioner Mackey.
Dr. Wilson, on July the 6th at the Animal Services meeting, you had the folder with all of the laws for the state of Louisiana, and you had some highlighted on what we could do and what we couldn't do, and I asked if you would share your notes with the body, and I haven't gotten them. Will you please do so?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's it. All right, Commissioner Lyndon Johnson.
Thank you. I want to again thank the Confederate Advisory Committee for the work that they've done to give us a recommendation. I don't say that I agree with the recommendation, but that is the information that they did give us. I do want to make sure that we do have a round of questioning for them on how did they come to that recommendation. Is it because of their feelings, or is it from the data that they got from the community? Is it from the 4 meetings that they had? You know, I want to make sure that we get the right information given to us so that we can make the right decision. If it's based upon their own opinion and not the opinion of the people that came to the meetings, then basically it was a waste of time. Because, and the other part of it, if there was a core group of people that went to each of the 4 meetings and they recorded each one of them was saying the same thing over and over again as duplicate, then that was a waste of time as well. Did some research on the Confederate monument in the state of Louisiana, and there's only 2 that's on public property. One that's out of 64 parishes, there's only 2 that I could find that's on public property. One of them is in Caddo Parish, and the other one is in East Feliciana Parish. The ones that were in Orleans Parish, all those have been removed. So this is not only a Shreveport, Caddo Parish issue. If you've been watching the news, this is becoming a United States issue and a national issue. There's a lot of things that are happening across the United States based upon these Confederate monuments, and we just have to make sure that when we make these decisions, we're making them for the right decision and making them for the right for Caddo Parish and not based upon some personal feelings or ancestral thoughts. So I just want to make sure that, as we move forward, that we keep the recommendation that we got moving forward so that we can make our vote and then we can vote on it and then move forward. Thank you.
All All right, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. That being said, to echo what Commissioner Johnson said, RJ did an amazing job, and I really want to recommend how well he did, or give him the accolade of how great he did. I know it was a very contentious situation that he was in, but he ran the meetings very well. He was where people didn't like him and what he had to say, but he was extremely professional. And I really applaud him for that. Regardless of what side he stood on, he did an amazing job. So I want to give him some accolades on that. The meeting, although we accepted it today as far as the resolution, received it. I want to make sure that's noted correctly. The meeting, Todd, was it the 5th was okay for September to have the long range at 2 o'clock? Okay, so 1400, 2 o'clock p.m., we're going to have the long range planning where we're going to discuss this. Obviously, we'll have to do it in here because the comfort restraints in the back are going to be too small. But I urge the public to reach out to their commissioner that represents their district so that their voice is heard. Because although we had the great meetings all around the town, I want the people to know that it's important to communicate to their commissioner their stance on it so that each commissioner can come and represent their district in the way that they're supposed to. And I definitely want to recommend that people do that. I also
You said their commissioner.
Their commissioner, right. And the reason I say it is a lot of people, I know I myself have gotten a lot of phone calls from people that were not in my district. And I think it's only fair that each one of the 12 of us represent their own people with their own voice. And at least that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to represent District 10, and the majority of what people have told me to do is what I'm going to do. And obviously you guys can do whatever you choose to do. On the 5th, we will also have another topic as far as are we going to add the barricades and the fences and the other things that we're looking at from the Sheriff's Department and the Sheriff's request. So, like I said, it's going to be a big meeting. I know a lot of people will show up. But I definitely want the public to know that that's going to happen so that they want to come out for both events. They will be that day on the 5th at 2 p.m. That's all I got, President.
Okay. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, sir. Well, all of the citizens who came down to voice their concerns and input their ideas on the resolution has left, but I just want to remind them to please stay encouraged and keep coming down and voicing your concerns. We do work for you, and we are proud to work with you and serve you in our best capacity that we can. And I just don't want you to feel like you wasted your time by coming down today and voicing your opinion, because it's normal that it doesn't turn out like that. It turns in a different way. However, I just want to say thank you to those people who did come down. Next, we had an expungement meeting on today that was held this afternoon to finalize the logistics on next week's expungement summit and resource fair. And as you know, it will be Friday, August 25th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Riverview Hall. And there'll be 2 sessions available at 9 a.m. and 12 noon. And that is to clear your criminal records, or should we say clean up your criminal records. This is not for felony offenses. This is for misdemeanor offenses only. And of course, you can only have one done. So if you have several, then this one is not for you. However, you are more than welcome to come down to learn about the process. We'll have Attorney Ebony Norris there to do the presentation, and other lawyers as well will be on hand.
That's for Caddo offenses only, or anyway?
This application is for Caddo Parish. Okay, next, we were talking, I heard 2 of my colleagues talking about some things that we'll have approaching on the agenda during our next work session and meetings for September. And the monument is a huge debate all over the world right now, and something that I think you just cannot turn away from. However, with that issue that is coming up, I do respect each and every person's own right to come before us in their own way, in their opinion, but we deserve the same respect as well. And I think that when we work for you, it's not that we are to do exactly what you say to do, but we are to do what is the best interest of all citizens in this parish. With that being said, I will also be bringing up some information about voting. We've been talking a lot about early voting satellite locations, and I met with Ernie Robertson, and we vetted out a lot parts of the process, I would say, that would not be acceptable to Caddo Parish. So I have a new proposal that I'll be bringing forward, something that I think will benefit all of the citizens, including the millennials, to come. And that is all of my communiques.
All right. Mr. Parliamentary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo the sentiments of Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Chavez as it relates to the work that the Citizens Committee did as it relates to the monument. I have said on several occasions in this body and into this audience that we do a great job of talking at one another in Caddo Parish and not talking to one another today. So I'd like to applaud Mr. Long, the person Mr. Long that came under the citizen comments today, and he said something very similar. There was a lot of monologue and not any dialogue. Over the last several months, I've done some intense reevaluation and studying of this monument whole issue. And if you ever get deep into it, it really engenders a conversation and a dialogue, because there are so many things that actually occurred as it relates to the construction of monuments, the Civil War, legislation passed afterwards, and when the monuments became to be constructed all over the United States. And you can only have an intuitive conversation in a situation where it's a dialogue, where you got impartial people there that's concerned about their local community, but they want to take into consideration everything that happened from a historical perspective. In this situation, no one's really wrong, no one's really right, but I think we need to be sensitive to the feelings that occurs, that engender about whatever phase of history it was and where we are in a 2017 context. Because at the end of the day, what this whole issue is about, and as you see it imploding over the entire United States, is when we go back and review history, could we have made a different choice, and had we made a different choice, would we be in a different space? And so maybe it's time in 2017 to make the right choice in the right space. And the only way that can happen is a dialogue that people agree and disagree with one another. Thanks.
All right. Commissioner Hackett.
I just wanted to comment on the Together Louisiana group and their efforts here. Commissioner Gage Watts, as I mentioned earlier, the Together Louisiana group was very involved in this legislation from the beginning. So many of their ideas are already illustrated here, and that's what I tried to stress, that most of the issues that they were raising were already in the legislation and in our process, the existing process. They wanted to add a few additional things at the end to tighten things down a bit that I personally felt was a bit restrictive and would hurt our competitive dynamic. So for that reason, I was not in favor of adding those additional restrictions. But most of their ideas are already included in the existing legislation. So I think that they are not going home a loser today. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Your turn. I'm sorry.
No, they had somebody else was going to talk, I thought.
Who was that on the board?
Next
I'm sorry. Man, it's dangerous putting this thing down this far. We might have to reconsider. I just want to kind of say, speak to the Together Louisiana. I appreciate them. They are aggressive. They have been calling. Don't give up. Don't think that your voices are not heard. We still the applications still have to go through the. And I think Attorney Frazier tried to point that out. Regardless to what the body does, the way the executive order or statute or whatever it is has to go, is it still will be some sort of abatement that's going to take place. It's just what amount at that point. So it seems like we're just giving our input and our say. It does not mean that they will get zero, unless everybody overwhelmingly rejects.
That's correct.
The what's his name? So if you have just one body says yes, we want to do it, they'll get some kind of abatement. But what I want to be sure that we don't do is we don't become so restrictive in our process. And like I say, I agree with the vast majority of what was put here. I think had we taken them one by one, you may have gotten some and not gotten the others. But that's what this process is about. It's about compromise, and I appreciate Commissioner Atkins for working through this process and getting us here today. I also want to mention that Southern University of Shreveport has a groundbreaking for the Alphonse Jackson mathematics building today at 6 p.m. So we're going to try to get out of here for that. I appreciate Commissioner Gates watching her work, and Dr. Wilson and the other folks who have been involved with the Expungement Summit. So please come down. Information that we got from the judges today about the good support program. I think, all of these efforts we're doing are making individuals more employable, and hopefully at some point we'll have a conversation of what I be called beyond the summit on how we can actually get folks to that point of being expunged. As it relates to the Citizen Advisory Committee, I do appreciate all of their work and what they're doing. I do want to make a point of clarification for what was said earlier. We work for the people, but we have a duty obligation to also work in their best interests. And so I think somebody came up under citizens' comment and said we ought to do what they say we should do. And that's a dangerous precedence to box yourself into a former Congressman Rodney Alexander. I asked him, I said, Congressman, do you miss being in Congress? He said, certainly I miss being in Congress, but I don't miss what it takes to stay a congressman. And so when we start boxing ourselves into solely what I call echo chambers of what folks saying, this is what you ought to do, that's a dangerous precedence to set. Our goal as elected officials is to do what's in the best interest of the public in general and the public as a whole. And so I appreciate the Citizens Advisory Committee. Dr. Wilson, quick question. If my cousin owned a food truck and wanted to come put it at juvenile court in the middle of the day, how would you handle that?
Ethically, it wouldn't be right, sir.
What about just any John Doe citizen? If they just wanted to come put their food truck and just park it there and
They would have to communicate with us to run the legal traps to see if that's permissible. But usually we don't promote commercial commerce on parish property.
What if they wanted to come put their just residential trailer in the middle of juvenile court?
We wouldn't allow it.
Would it have to go towards some kind of zoning or something?
Yes, sir. Okay. And then it's private.
You got private property on public property.
Yes, sir. It's a prohibitive act regarding that way.
Okay. I just wanted to get some clarification on private property or private, because somebody said that the monument.
You can't put private property on parish.
Okay, because I'm hearing that the monument does not belong to Caddo Parish, and I don't know if we've done all our legal research on that. But if it's private property on public land, somehow or another we need to figure out how do we have private, because I got something that I want to set out there. Just saying. But I appreciate you on that.
I have a point of clarification.
Go ahead.
So did you say that we own the statue, or
No, sir,
we don't own the
I
statue?
didn't say that.
No,
I didn't. I'm sorry.
No, sir, we own the land. But we don't own
You don't
So we
own
don't own the statue, but we do own the land.
Since I've been here, I'm being told that the statue does not belong to the parish. Because
Seems like the
is there a
attorney
legal
for you.
document to say otherwise now?
Basically, all of that's gonna be up for, dispute. So,
On
on those issues, that's all going to be, up for
Debate and dispute.
debate and dispute.
And we
So-
don't maintain it, sir. We don't do anything to it.
Well, can I ask you another question? What if I want to build my house or build something inside the property of the juvenile detention center?
Couldn't do it.
So the statute's essential.
Okay.
Leasehold
All right.
Is it considered a leasehold improvement?
I just wanted to
That's
ask those questions.
Debatable and disputable.
Okay, I got you. I just wanted some clarification on that. Well, I appreciate all of the conversation, and, oh yeah, and I'm sorry, don't forget our workshop at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We got the agenda, for MPC. Okay, I'm sorry, I do apologize. The workshop tomorrow, 2 o'clock, 4th floor, MPC conference room. We do need to talk about the cost sharing with regards to the MPC. We need to talk about, our cost sharing, with regard to the 2018 budget year. So this is not a gripe session about what's going on in the news. This is a workshop so that we can have discussions about issues that we all need to be informed about. We have one more citizen's comment, so please indulge us, Mr. Sed Johnson. It's 3 B's at this point. Be brief, brother.
Yeah, just basically we just hear Sed Johnson and Destiny Youngers. Citizens Shreveport. We having a big event coming to Shreveport, the Battle of the Bands. It's called October the Best of the Bands Festival, and it's dealing with breast cancer awareness. And we have some of the 10 best bands all over the region. That's from Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Texas, Arkansas. So 10 of the best bands. And we also have Southern University band as well. It's going to be special guests. They're going to bring their whole band. We're going to have it at the Independence Stadium on October the 15th. We're going to give 10 scholarships away. The minimum is $300 per each band that participates. So we have 10 bands. We're going to, whatever band director, seeks that whoever been with them, the loyal for the 4 years, we're going to give them a scholarship for them to go. We're also going to have scouts from band directors from all over the region that we're going to invite to seek these kids for scholarships, and that's schools from all over, from different. It doesn't matter what race, all races, all kind of bands. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a big event, and we need you guys to help us to be a part of to make this event be successful. And also we're going to give like a breast cancer scholarship as well. Person who's we're going to try to, we have the company that, what's the company name that we're going to?
We haven't decided yet.
Well, we're working on a company that we're going to donate $1,000 to, also to the Institution for Breast Cancer. So this is a big event, Battle of the Bands. It's a good, positive thing. It's on a Sunday. And we would definitely love for you guys to be a part of it. So we definitely, Independence Stadium, if anything, you can help us out with anything, that'll be great. Because it's going to cost us a fortune to put this event on. And we definitely want the city of Monroe to help us and be a part of it. I mean, I'm Shreveport, sorry.
What's the date again?
Sir?
The date?
October the 15th. Start at 2 o'clock on a Sunday. And the kids, yes, sir, Independence Stadium. The kids are out of school the next day, so.
So yeah, we can't. It's not in public.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, and the kids not at school the next day, so it's definitely a big event.
So we would encourage you to get with administration, get them whatever information that they need. That's usually how we operate. That is, we get with administration.
Okay, we definitely just want to just kind of introduce it to you guys, and hopefully you guys can just come and just show support.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Chavez. Any objection? Please adjourn.
You need to learn math.
Yes, ma'am.